Hi, polymaths and polymathic people. Today I am here with my friend, Christy Little. We've been meaning to record one of these for Polymath Place for a while now, and finally we're getting around to it. Um, so to start, Christy, could you just share a little bit about like who you are and what you do and just whatever you feel like sharing?
Yeah. So we were just saying before we hit record that it's almost 2 years since we met. We
Yeah.
met at a retreat. I was managing retreats in Costa Rica at the time. And time goes by so fast, but I really appreciate this connection, and I'm really happy that there was something energetically between us, then, and I'm just glad we're still connected. So uh prior to that life, I feel like I've lived a few lives in one life. I was a professional dancer for 15 years. Moved to New York City at 18. I had already well established this hustle mentality. I pretty much gave up most of my teenage, like adolescent life, dancing. I danced 6 7 days a week depending on what was going on in my schedule at various parts of the year. And social things and just typical teenage stuff really was put aside. I had this big dream. I was always a big dreamer, and in order to make that one happen, I needed to put in a lot of man hours. So I lived the dream. Like I said, I worked in the industry for 15 years on cruise ships and theater. I did commercials, all the stuff. And then 2020 hit, everything shut down, jobs got swept away. And I realized I was really tired. And I realized that what I had continued to be hustling and grinding for just like wasn't in alignment with me. Just energetically too, the cutthroatness and jadedness, and the whole like isms behind what I got to do on stage just weren't really in alignment with me anymore. I was just still trying to chase something that I knew and I was familiar with. I had done all aspects of the industry, from directing and choreographing to performing to stage management. And so it was kind of a scary time to go, you gave up your life as a teenager for this thing. Then you spent 15 years from the time you were 18 into your 30s, and this is what and you're just gonna not do it not do that
Scary,
anymore.
right?
So luckily, and I do say luckily, not lucky that all that transpired in the world of 2020 happened, but for me personally, luckily I was forced to just continue to sit for months. So then that was a big self-reflection time for me, and I learned a little bit more about myself. I learned about some of the unworthiness that I was able to like kind of hide and pretend that I didn't have, mask it behind an ego and say, well, I'm a really confident person because I'm on stage all the time, when I was really like so incredibly insecure. So that was like a really surprising realization, to peel back my onion and go, you think you're confident because you have an established thing of like, well, I don't have stage fright, so I must be confident. But really, to just be me, who I was, without a costume, without a character to hide behind, terrifying, absolutely terrifying. So that led to the next couple years of like some deep soul searching, some deep reflection of, well, what do I want to do? What is authentic? Because I actually thought this was really authentic to me, and I found out it was just a really great way for me to hide behind something, and a way to put myself in a box in a world that I didn't feel like I belonged in. And so I gravitated towards dance, seemingly thinking like, oh, this is why I don't fit in other places, or this is why I kind of feel weird, or I feel different. So it must be because I'm an artist and I'm a dancer, so I'll put myself here. And it felt comfortable to give myself an identity or to try to understand myself. And so I discovered during that time that a lot of the reasons why I loved it so much were actually ways to ease the pain of feeling not good enough, not feeling pretty enough, not feeling worthy enough, not feeling like I fit in. All of those things I was able to mold into a reality that felt less painful. So that led to me going, what do I want to do? I worked with a health and wellness company for a while. I managed retreats. I thought about hosting my own retreats. I thought about creating a self-love program or a program around, how to find your worthiness and how to find your authenticity. And all of these things kind of felt like I was still in that like hustle grind and trying to like force things to happen. I was interested in them, but they just didn't quite click. And then in the summer of, or the fall, I should say, of 2021, this nudge to pick my art back up happened. Art had always been in my life. Ever since like literally my earliest memory, there was a crayon or a pencil in my hand. And that was really how I spent my time. Really, that was like my little nook of peace as I grew up. So no matter what was going on around me in my environment, I was able to create this little bubble where I could be painting or coloring or drawing. And it was like I could just get lost in my own world. Kind of like how I feel in meditation now. So I was like kind of getting in that state as a child where I was able to just be so present and so in this like peaceful Zen zone before I really realized what that was. So this was calling me again. And weeks after this little nudge of like, hey, I think that art is the way you like, that's where my heart is calling me. My husband had a heart attack, and I think all heart attacks are sudden, but he was 43, super healthy, worked out every day, ate super healthy. So it was very unexpected to say the least. And the doctor had told me that he had 1 to 2 hours to live had we not gone into the hospital. And so that kind of opened up its own trauma for me. I had the guilt of like, how could I not have known he was like that close to death? I'm his wife. I should know how to take care of him. Like all these things came up. And everybody was so lovely reaching out, saying like, whatever you need, I'm here for you if you need to talk. But the thing was no words were coming out. I couldn't stay. I didn't have any words. And I felt so heavy. And I picked up my paints and I just started moving paint around in a way I never had before. I never had done anything abstract. Everything was like realism and very technical before this time. And something just said like, I just need to do this. I need to stick my hands in paint. I need to move it around. I need to just do this. And I realized during that time how healing art was. That art wasn't something just selfish for me to do because it was fun and I liked it. Like this could be the way I help people through healing, help people, visualize a personal growth journey that they've been through, find presence, find peace, create some sort of harmony in their life in a way I was searching in other ways for in retreats and programs and all that, in what was actually really truly authentic for me. And that was when the light bulb came on of, I use this for my own healing. There's something to this. There's something more in service, stepping into this way, this journey, than I was giving credit to before. So that really, through a really weird, tumultuous, soul-searching time, and then, almost losing my husband, like it's kind of like I got shook awake, and it asked me so many times in those couple years to like keep like listening into my soul, not to external advice or, you know, what people thought I was good at or good ideas or all of that. So I'm grateful for that time. It's crazy, and it was really hard, but it's helped me emerge into what truly is authentic to me now.
Sounds like a dark night of the soul.
Totally. It totally was. It totally was. I was very cocooning. Actually, it's been interesting this year as I've been like ready to get back into the world, really. You know, it was a couple years of really just I call it the cocoon. I was in the cocoon, just like, I need to figure this out. And I need a lot less external stimulation while I do this.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And I just want to say, I want to go back and I made a few notes of things I want to respond to. So when we met in Costa Rica, I think that was March of 2021.
Yep.
Oh, wait, 2022?
2022.
22.
Yeah.
22.
Yeah.
So it's been and now right now it's December 2023. So it's been almost 2 years. And I remember we sat next to each other during a lunch for that zip lining day in Costa Rica and horseback riding, and that was so fun. But we just started talking, and I was like, the more we talked, I was like, wow, we really think similarly. We're
I
on the
agree.
same
I
page.
remember that.
Because I had just left a 15-year federal government career and was also pursuing my passion for in the field of polymathy studies. And we were just like, everything you said and everything I said, we were like, yeah, yeah. There was just like this jiving that we were doing.
Oh, I remember.
And then we've had a couple discussions since then. And every time we talk, I'm like, yeah, we think similarly.
Yep.
And I definitely have wanted to highlight your story as a polymathic person with multiple capacities and capabilities. And not just that you're multi-capable, but that you've really intentionally steered your life to make it good for you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a really good example, I think, for a lot of people, because so many of us languish in careers and lives because we're expected, or we think it's expected, or we think it looks good, or we think or it feels safe and familiar, even as it feels uncomfortable and not right. And so, and I've gone through a similar journey myself of like totally redesigning my life in middle age. I'm in my early 40s, and I'm happier than ever. I mean, it's been so hard, and it's still hard, but it feels like a better match for my soul, what I'm doing now. And so I work a ton and I enjoy it the whole time. You know what I mean? Does that resonate with you?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
I want to touch back on a few other things that you had said. You said in the beginning that you were sort of masking your insecurity by like looking confident, like playing the role of confident, but deep down feeling like really kind of insecure. And that was like really the whole reason you were playing this role, is because you weren't really confident enough to not play the role. And can you say a little bit more about that? Like how you got past the fear of what people will think and just really created your own life?
Yeah.
What you wanted?
Yeah, one of the biggest driving forces around that was just wanting to be liked. And I think how all of it developed was when I reflected back to my childhood. There was just something, and I don't know why, but there was just something that made it hard for me to make and keep friends. And there was something about me that always lended people to make fun of me. So I realize now, you know, I'm a very energetic person, and energy is, you know, it's science too. It's not what everybody likes to just label like woo woo. Like literally everything is energy. And so we are like magnets, and we're also reflectors of what's going on inside of us.
Mm-hmm.
So what we feel in us gets projected back to us. And so there was something in me that felt insecure that attracted people who perpetually made fun of me. Because I will say, like, it's across the board. Like, it didn't matter if they were my age, if they were like adult teacher figures, if they were, it was like I had a sign over my head, which I think energetically, like, I did transmute like something out that was like, I'm insecure, make fun of me. I'm insecure about my nose, make fun of it. I'm insecure about the way I walk, make fun of it. I'm insecure about whatever. And it happens. And so that kind of led me to just find things that made people like me. And I tried to figure out what that was. So like whatever I thought was like cool or good, or, you know, and even in the world of dance, talent is like like being popular. It's a very strange thing. So as I got better at that, girls that wouldn't have given me the time of day the year before, this year doing Nutcracker, getting better roles, all of a sudden these girls are my friends. And so I think it was partly like that was a way I tried to fit in. And I masked the things that I was insecure about to try to hide them in order to fit in. Like ultimately what I was seeking was love and acceptance. And I found the ways to get that love and acceptance.
Can I ask another question off of that? Like, you wanted very much to be liked and to fit in. And so you played a role to try to please. And you got liked better by putting in that effort. So think about those kind of connections and relationships for a moment. Just keep those in your mind, like the quality, the texture, the feel, like how those work. And then now think of like in your new life, these relationships you have where you're liked without trying as hard because it's just you. And what's the quality and texture, and what is that like? Like, how would you compare and contrast being liked from playing a role versus liked by being yourself?
Oh my gosh. They're literally like on opposite ends. The playing a role to be liked, those relationships were mostly so superficial, or we bonded because this is the result of the toxicity that played a part. I started to become someone who made fun of other people or gossiped. So we had two dynamics on this side. Like they were either so surface, superficial, or, you know, it was almost like they liked me to kiss up to me. You know, if I held certain roles in theaters, or I was a dance captain or something. So it was kind of like that. Or sometimes I lose my train of thought and things get back and down in my brain, and that was just it.
Oh, so comparing like the old connections versus the new ones, like how would you?
Oh, that was the other thing. Oh, so then the other dynamic was we were bond because we were just like yucky people who made fun of other people. So it was like a gossip, like kind of bond. Whereas now on the other side, I legitimately, I so rarely run into people who project negatively onto me. I really don't have it. I don't have people who make fun of me anymore. That's for sure. Yay. And if it's like it's like a complete random stranger on Instagram. Sometimes every once in a while we'll put something on a reel that I post. It's like, that's not art. You know, like something stupid like that. But like, I don't bring, like, that stuff doesn't come to me anymore. So the people who are really in my life, there's something of substance. Like there are people who I vision cast with, or I collaborate with, or I have interesting, beautiful conversations like this with. And those are like the relationships in my life. And if it's any kind of connection beyond that, it's very, it's either like very just business, or, you know, they're not considered like my best friends ever. They're acquaintances who we do something with. But anybody that is like a real relationship with me has something like that, has something like this
Do
together.
you feel like the quality of your connections nowadays feel more loving?
Yeah.
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 So you said
Because I love me.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not an empty vessel looking to like be filled by other things. I mean, even my jobs were the things that filled that love cup for me, because I didn't have self-love. I didn't. I really didn't. It was based on achievements and accolades
If
and
you're
other
good enough, you'll
people.
get love.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So here's what I just want to observe for anyone
Yeah.
watching this, because I think the pattern that you've experienced could be more generally applied in other people's lives as well. Is when you show up as your real self, your authentic self, you're just honest about the good stuff of you and the imperfect stuff of you, and you're just a real human.
Yeah.
And when people love you anyway,
Yeah.
that's where you get the good stuff.
Yeah.
When you're loved for who you are, it's so much better than being loved for a show.
Yeah.
Fake version of you.
Yeah.
And by the way, everyone wants to be liked. There's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with wanting to be liked, but where the problem is where you're willing to change who you are to be an avatar based on other people's desires. You're like a shell of a person when you're not even really showing up to your own life as yourself.
Right.
To me, it's
And why you're chasing something or allowing somebody else to tell you if you're good enough because you don't like yourself.
yeah, exactly. I want to ask your opinion on something.
Mhm.
Because you and I both were like hyper overachievers.
Yeah.
I was also a hyper overachiever, like a White House intern and like blah 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 blah. And I look back on my own journey through my own life and I realize how much I was forcing my vision. I made a vision that I thought other people would like and respect. It was sort of tangentially maybe like me, but not really me, but like what I thought I should be. So like I would work really hard and just just like slave drive myself to achieve my goals. So there was this forcing energy, this pushing. It was like an uphill push to get my goals achieved. And then now that I've really shifted my life around to be happier and have more balance and have more authenticity and bravery even, I have this feeling like there's not as much push, there's just more allowing and magnetizing. It's like a pull, and it's a pulling more than a pushing. And it also feels like as a woman, um that the pushing I was doing early was a very masculine sort of energy. And now I'm much more in my feminine energy, like allowing good things to happen rather than forcing them. And I feel so much more happy and relaxed and less tense. Like I used to have constant back and neck tension, and now I'm like, that rarely happens now. Like even my body is telling me like, oh, you're more relaxed now. So what does any of that resonate with you?
Yeah, totally. And actually the woman who owned the mansion that we met at the retreat, we developed like the closest bond. She was like a soul sister, and she was a big advocate. I mean, her and her husband had created like $1 million businesses with her being in this like feminine flow, like the visionary and this whole sense of being. And then he was the doer part. And I remember having these conversations because that was so new to me that I was like, Jen, I don't understand. Like, so I'm just supposed to like do nothing? And she's like, no, that's not what being is. But it doesn't require you to work so hard at something, because I feel like you're actually preventing it from coming to you because you're trying so hard And that whole concept for months for me, it was like I wanted to understand, but it was so polar opposite to like how we both had been before. I was like, I don't understand this like flow thing, because it's a belief system, right? Like for me, it was like the belief up until then was the result of my life was based upon me busting my butt and like working so hard to make it happen. So I didn't have that other example of like, well, I don't know. I don't know if this works, because that's not how I got my track record. So that took some time and took like, okay, stop trying to be like, that's not how you get there. And I really had to slow down and understand more of this feminine energy, like you say, and realize I don't know about you, I would love to hear if you felt this way too, but every 9 months to a year throughout my dance career, I would get burnt out, like perpetually burnt out, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, just like gone from the world. I need to like recoup. Well, I know why now, because I couldn't run on that energy. That actually wasn't my operating system, but I didn't have that other example at that time. And so now I know why. And anytime I get back into that too much, I know that I'm in.
I think that burnout, I completely have gone through burnout phases of my life too, because I was such an overachiever and I wouldn't let myself rest. And then I would expend so much energy that I'd be like, oh my God, I don't want to do anything now. But I think when you're in your authentic truth, like when you're showing up to your life in a way that feels real, it doesn't really take energy and effort the same way as trying to be something that's not authentic drains you. Like,
Yeah.
if I have to do IT equipment work or assemble an IKEA dresser, honey, I will hate it, honey. Like it is not authentic for me. I'm not an engineer. I'm just not. But talking with people or, like there are other things, writing or thinking or there's other area, or even like decorating or makeup and hair. Like there's other things that take my time and energy, but they don't drain me at all. So when I'm just following, this is what part of why it's so important to just really tune in and find out from your own heart what you want your life to look like, and then do your best to make it happen, because you just get to have more energy and feel better.
Yeah.
When it's authentic.
Yeah, I agree. It is interesting to see the dynamic, because ultimately, like, I've always been a very creative person. So it was partly authentic for me to be a dancer, but it was also a lot of force. It wasn't natural for me. I wasn't just this like prodigy kind of like person in it. I really had to work to get to the level that I got to in order to have the career that I did. And that's not really the case with art. Sometimes I'm like, how the hell did I just do? Like, how did that just come out of me? And it doesn't feel like I did anything. And so it's been a weird dynamic too, to be like, okay, well, this is really like, this is really your element. And you're really connected in a deeply like soul way, that you're being led through this painting instead of, oh, does this look okay? Oh, should I use that color? Oh, should I have moved the paint over here? Oh, I don't know if that's like not the space I operate in. It's like complete connection and flow, and things come out and I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe that came out of me. That's so cool.
Yeah. And your paintings are beautiful.
Thanks.
I want to circle back to, if you don't mind, to Jen real quick, because we talked about this earlier, but I kind of would like to capture it on video just for the record, because I think there's something to be learned from Jen.
For sure.
So can you say a little bit about like your friend Jen and how she impacted you, and also like what happened a few weeks ago, and what lessons or takeaways that loss has given you?
Yeah. So I met Jen, this just beautiful, radiant soul, a few years ago. We met online. We had a Zoom meeting just to get acquainted. And I got off of that Zoom and I said to my husband, Jay, I just met the most special, amazing woman. And I don't know why we're connected. I don't know what we're supposed to do together, but it's something. I just feel it. And she's just so amazing. So I actually went to her first retreat leaders mastermind that she hosted in Costa Rica, where I met Danielle, who was your friend, and that's how then we met. And she just was so absolutely wonderful. She brought me the book, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, one of the mornings of the retreat, and said, this book completely changed my life. It's one of my favorite books, and I want you to have it because I think that you'll love it. And so I have that book, and I will now forever. I love the book, but now just the physical aspect of it, I will just forever cherish. And after that, we were just so solely connected. She helped me see, she was a big dreamer, and she helped me see that my big dreams aren't just like, I'm this just crazy person that, is ungrounded and has all these like audacious dreams that, come down from the clouds and be on earth. That's what I used to hear as a kid. And I saw somebody who was like me, like little kid me. And I was like, okay, no, that's part of who I am. That is authentic to me. For me to not be constrained by society's opinions on what life looks like. Jen didn't live by those kind of guidelines. She didn't put herself in those boxes, and she helped show me of like, no, this is the true way for you too. And she started a watch company. She had been seeing me post my art online and said, I have this idea. I want to put art on the face of watches, and I have this whole like vision behind it, and different aspects I'd like to go for messages and a vision, and I'd like you to be an artist for it. And it was once we started collaborating, she really helped me hone in on, no, like, this is a real dream of yours. This isn't just a childhood fantasy where, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? Oh, an artist. And it's just like a thing that was a childhood thing. No, this is like, that is what authentically is me. And look at all of these avenues in order to like do this and create in this way. And so us creating those watches really helped me hone in on my authenticity. It really did. Like, she helped me find my authenticity in so many different ways. And she was diagnosed with stage 4 in August of 2022. And she just passed this past month. And it's helped me also remember that we have no guarantees in this life. We don't know what our experience is meant to be. If we live to be 100, bless us, but that isn't necessarily it. And life is a gift. Her vision was so beautiful, and I'm inspired to keep that vision alive. And that spark that she sparked in me, it's clearly time for me to take that and pass that on to others. So I am still in a lot of pain about her not physically here anymore, but her sparks with me. And now I'm inspired to sit and reflect at a deeper level of my purpose and what kind of impact I'm meant to have, and how I can take that from her and honor that in what I do moving forward.
By the way, I love a good dreamer.
Yeah, well, I'm one.
Yeah, I love a dream. And I mentioned this earlier, so forgive the repeat, but I just want to capture it here. I've had, we all have at some certain points in life, people we know who pass away, people we love who leave physically. And the thing I'm always reminded of when that happens is like, oh yeah, our time is limited. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, we're going to experience losses. Like people come in and out of this experience. They're born and they die. And also we will probably die. Like unless we figure out like how to, and that's possible. We could figure out how to do indefinite life extension. Like that is possible, but probably our bodies will eventually give out. And so it's a reminder really to like make the most of the time we have. And if you have limited time, do you want to spend it being a pretend version and doing things you don't really want to do and like being fake and having shallow relationships and connections because you're showing up as a facade? Or do you want to show up as your real self and like even figure out what that is
Yeah.
and then explore it and let it shift and evolve? Because who we are, I mean, I don't know. I'm curious what you think. I think that there's some essence of what we are that remains constant, but then an authentic self may change over time too. So it's like, yeah, there may be some constant in our personhood that's
Yeah.
authentic, but there may also be like seasons and flavors and explorations and, different times of life where we show up differently.
Yeah, totally. There's a lot of aspects of my like childhood self that in these last couple of years has really emerged. And I think societal perception of children underestimates who they really are. Before anybody gets to us, before any experiences traumatize us or tell us who we are, we as little beings are free, we are joyous, we want to play, we seek fun and laughter and joy. And there's a lot of aspects to our childhood self. If we can think back of like when we were really, really, really little, what were we like? What did we like to do? That's probably pretty close to your authentic self. And then as an adult, obviously now we have, more knowledge, more skill, experiences to go along with that part of that authenticity that then can shape, really what we are as an adult, as an authentic being. But a lot of aspects of who I was as a child are actually coming back now in a lot of senses. Like, for instance, I'll just give an example. By the time I was like 4, 5, everybody started saying I was shy. Oh, she's so shy. Oh, she's so quiet. She's so shy. Well, I wasn't at 2 or 3. I was the biggest ham, but experiences or examples led me to think, it's not so safe to speak everywhere. Or I'm a good girl when I'm quiet. So I'm just going to stay quiet because I want to be a good girl and I want my family to like me and think I'm a good girl. So when I think about those kind of things, like, are we really shy? Are any of us really, really shy? Or have those things developed? So anyway, I digress. I'm not shy. I'm not really an introvert. Experiences made me be like that into childhood, teenage, even 20s, early 30s. But now that I'm coming back to self, I'm realizing a lot of those personality traits aren't my personality traits, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think we're born kind of with some unique essence or flavor that's very original
Yep. Yep.
in its thumbprint or signature or whatever. And that the more we're kind of programmed and indoctrinated and pressured, that's when we become more like other people and
Yeah.
we lose that original signature. So on a journey to authenticity, to like get back to your your real self, even as you
Yeah.
experiment with what your real self looks like in day-to-day settings, but as you get back to your real self, you really do get back to like probably what you were like as a kid.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been so interesting because again, it's like, it's all about perception. I've perceived that my childhood self couldn't possibly be like my adult self because I was a kid, you grow out of stuff, oh, they don't know any better, you got to learn stuff. But in essence, like, that was the purest form of me in those like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, before I went to school and all that. Like, that was my essence. Like you said, we all have a little seasoning and stuff when we come in here. That was it before anybody said, no, that's wrong, or that's bad, or you shouldn't be like that, or you should go do this, or you'd be good at that. And
Yeah. I want to ask you something else too, and probably any men watching this are not going to like this question. So, but I want to ask it anyway, because I've heard you say a couple times now about being a good girl. I very much identify with that as well. And I don't, maybe boys feel that way too, but I think as women and girls, there's a lot of pressure to like be a good girl, be good, so you could be liked and stuff and you could be accepted. But this idea of like needing to be a good girl can do a lot of damage, can't it? Like we want to be good, we do, but like my own version of good, not your definition, right?
Right. Yeah. I was an only child. I am an only child. And I was the first child of any of the, my aunts and uncles and all of that. So I was around adults until I was in kindergarten. I had very little, like, there weren't a lot of kids in the neighborhood and stuff. So I like pretty much hung out with adults for the first 5 years of my life. And, I just remember hearing over and over in, a dining room table setting or out to eat at a restaurant with a bunch of the adults of like, oh, she's just such a good girl. You don't even hear a peep. We don't even know she's there, because I'd be coloring or drawing or whatever. Okay, well, this is when I say we underestimate children sometimes. I might have not reacted to that or responded to somebody saying that, but I heard it. I can still remember it. I'm 38 years old and I can still remember that. And my perception was, oh, they're praising me. Like, it was like almost like a reward to hear that. Like, she's such a good girl. It was almost like, oh, that was like an accolade for me back then.
And what
like,
is
I'm being praised to be quiet and a
quiet.
good girl. Yeah, a good girl. And I heard like, oh, you don't even remember she's there. She's just so quiet. Okay, so try not to be seen and heard. Just
A good girl disappears into the background. A good girl does what she's told. A good girl does what's expected of her. A good girl conform. There's so much messaging as little girls that I think all of us got. That like being a good girl means like you do everything that's expected of you, and you don't speak up, you don't have a different opinion, you don't get to be yourself.
Yeah.
Like our authenticity is literally like programmed out of us by this narrative that to be good you better do what you're told and don't rock the boat and stay quiet and small and just be useful for other people's goals, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so on a less depressing note, let's shift gears. Let's shift gears a little bit. Obviously, we're not good girls now. Now we're doing what we want with our lives. Okay. I want to shift gears to life nowadays a little bit. If that's okay with you. Yeah. Can you so you've gone on this journey and you've totally redesigned your life. Like you even moved.
Yeah.
You moved to a different state. You went from New York to North Carolina.
We were in Orlando for a few years. And then we moved to North Carolina last year.
So you're in the beautiful North Carolina and the mountains and nature, and you're loving it. You went from like New York City to like the complete opposite.
Yeah, I was like always a city girl. Like I was going to dance in Boston as a teenager, and I loved the city, taking the subway by myself, like all the things. I moved to New York City right away out of high school, and I thought I was going to live there forever. Like I loved the city. And then, yeah, I was in New England for a few years working at a theater and some studios there. And we moved to Orlando because I still had that like urban go, go, go bug. And then part of me finding my authenticity was like, that is not authentic anymore. I was there for entertainment. That's what brought us down there. And when that door was closed, it was just like, I need to slow down. I want a slower pace. I want to be able to walk out and like put my feet in the grass and go on hikes and be by lakes. And I realized like that was part of my place to recharge and also find my creativity. So my husband, like this is totally his element. He was always supportive of the other version of myself, but we're much more compatible now. So we're in the mountains. He's thriving, he's totally healthy, like found his solution to keep his heart and his body like good. And I am doing my art now. So I paint, I do commissions. Yeah, I have all kinds of different ways that my art is on different things. And I just feel really, really grateful. Like this is definitely evolving into really the life that that little version of me would have loved and would have been like thrilled to have.
Speaking of
Yeah.
other versions of you, I want to ask you another question for fun. So think back on yourself, I don't know, back in 2020, like when you were in that dark night of the soul and you were like, I've got to change how my life looks. This is not working. And it was partly due to the pandemic and it was partly due to your own exhaustion of this life that didn't fit
Yeah.
anymore. And
Yeah.
so if you could tell that version of yourself who's in the difficulty, who's in like the despair and the challenges and all the work that had to get done, if you could tell her anything about, you know, where you're at now, was it worth it? Was it worth going through all that to be able to have the life you have now? Like, what would you tell that version of yourself to inspire her to like do it, go for it?
Yeah. So with the whole like the 2020 was so weird because it was like the outer world and my inner world were just like all
Chaotic.
so it definitely gave me a spiritual awakening. I definitely had a deep soul like shake awake in a lot of ways in 2020. So I would say buckle up. There are going to be times where you're going to be scared or think it's scary or think the world is scary and not know where your place is. And that's okay. Be patient, slow down, and don't think that this is going to be like a quick journey, because I didn't have a lot of patience up until that point in my life. And so I think I would have needed a good pep talk to be prepared for all that came to me. If I had known what was coming, I would have needed a good pep talk. But I would tell her you're a hell of a lot stronger than you think you are, and just stay resilient.
Yeah. And if you let's play an imagination exercise for just a minute too. Like imagine that you didn't make the shifts and you just stayed in Manhattan and you stayed in a career that wasn't really a right match for you. Like how do you think you'd be feeling today? Where would your energy be? Where would your happiness be? Like how would you be feeling about your life if you just stayed in the old one because it was easier? And it
Well,
was hard, but it was easier to just stay with status quo. You know what I mean?
yeah. It's really hard to age in that industry.
Mm.
And I mean, by the time I was in my late 20s, I was already getting called old. So my perception of me and my age, even in 2020, I had turned 35 on like the second day of the lockdown, something like that. And so at that point, I had this like I'm not kidding you. Like subconsciously, I had this like grandma persona of myself. So if I would have stayed in now, it would have really developed into like the bitter, kind of jaded, entertainment person that's, been around for 20 years and bitter that it's harder on my body, trying to still look 20, because that's always the pressure, the competition, the animosity. It would definitely be eating me alive, and I wouldn't be a very nice person right now.
Yeah. And I think this is the difficult choice that a lot of people have to make. And maybe not everybody's in this position, but I think there are plenty of people here on earth who are in a life that they don't really like.
Yeah.
And it sucks to stay in that life. And it also sucks in some ways to have to go through the process to change it.
Yeah.
But once you go through that process, then you can be in a life you're much happier in. So it's like, do you want to languish and have that version of hard, or do you want to have hard for a period of time and then something you really love be your,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
which decision makes more sense? I think the answer is obviously to like, well, make some changes and get to the life you love. If you can,
Yeah.
like, I know there's practical limitations and there's real world issues and money and kids and, there are limitations, but if there is a way to get to the life you love, it probably is worth the effort, even if it's
Yeah.
hard, because it's a
Yeah.
temporary hard.
Yeah. Jay and I were just talking about this a couple days ago. Like when you have that feeling of just, the more, getting up in the morning to go to the job, and the feeling is just, when it's like that, and that there's just like, this isn't so like soul aligned anymore, this isn't exciting for you, but you don't yet know the other direction that you would go in, it is a really scary time, because it's not easy to go, well, I'm just not going to do that thing anymore, but then go, well, I don't even have a clue. Like art wasn't in my sights in 2020, because I had a lot of limiting beliefs around being able to do it. So it was just like I dumped the one thing that I knew, but then it was like, well, now what? So that is a really scary thing. But there was a part of me that just trusted that whatever it was will come. And you just have to like do the inner work really to start to lay the breadcrumbs or follow the breadcrumbs to what's supposed to be.
Yeah. And we probably should start wrapping up soon, but I wanted to ask you a little bit more too about fear, because here's the thing, like we all experience fear sometimes, but fear to me doesn't mean I give up and stop. Fear to me now, as a grown woman who's worked to kind of manage my emotions, is I can feel scared and know I'll be okay, or no, I'll get through it, or no, okay, tomorrow's a new day, or no, I can call a friend, or no, I can just cry or feel the fear, just experience it and then let it go. Like so many people don't do things because they're afraid. And I don't think that's a very good reason to not do something. I mean, if someone's got an axe murderer is trying to get you, honey, feel the fear and let the fear help you. But so often the fear, we let it hold us back, and we don't have to.
Yeah.
What are
Yeah.
your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah. And fear is an interesting thing because the body will react the same, whether it's in danger or just being challenged.
Some
So,
thoughts.
the danger situation, 100%. The challenge situation, it's up to us to have the awareness enough to go to like get us back in the moment. Because when we're in fear, we're in an imaginary
Time
zone.
travel. Yeah.
Yes. So we're in the future imagining the terrifying situation that might happen. And so it's having that awareness to go, okay, wait, I know that I'm doing that. So like I still feel that too. And I have to practice that presence, to like be the observer almost of like where my mind's going, and then go, hold on, where are you right now? You're at your desk. Like, you're cool. You're not where you just were. You're here. Okay. So is that real? Is whatever your mind just did, is that an option? Is that something that could happen? Sure. Okay. Is it happening right now? No. Okay. Whatever I want to be doing, that now fear came in and doubt and all that, like, what's the next step that I can take towards that goal? That's the reality. And keep seeing the fear as my imagination that's not in the present tense. Because again, outside of the danger scenario, whatever we're in fear about, that adrenaline, that whatever, most of the time is not happening. It's the anticipation of it,
which is
coming.
worse than the actual thing usually.
Yeah. So for me, with fear, it's the presence. And usually with fear, for me, there's doubt. That's usually what then the fear is, because I doubt my ability, or I doubt the thing coming, and then I that perpetuates into fear for me. So I have to just understand, like, what is doubt offering me? Literally, like, doubt pretty much offers me nothing. Like, oh, you're not good enough to go get in that gallery. Okay, do you have a solution for me? No. Okay, then, like,
No.
goodbye. I don't need your offer then. Like, okay, I'm gonna just do it. So anyway, it's remembering that those things are just figments of our imagination that are trying to keep us safe. That's the part of our self that wants to keep us safe, because safe is usually familiar. And so without doing those things, we're fearing that we're going to fail at them. Okay, well, they're not in your life right now. So if you fail at it, you don't have it right now anyway. If you hear no, you don't have it right now anyway, without going for it. And so then if we can see it as a journey, so you hear a no, it can be a no forever, or it could be, well, how did I present myself? How did I don't know, prepare for it? Is it really a no forever? Or do I have some things to adjust? Like me with a new business, there's stuff that's I'm going to have to adjust. I've never had an art business before up until a couple of years ago. So like, I'm naturally going to be doing things and learning. So I can either say they're not for me, I'm not good enough, or, well, I think we need to adjust and pivot, or strengthen the vision, or how can we elevate the brand, or who can I talk to, or it's the perception.
Yeah,
so I look at fear as like, it's a perception, and how can I change the way I'm looking at this thing, basically.
exactly. I think there's something to be said too for like, well, just sit with your fear, just experience it, like actually pay attention to it and see if there's any lessons you can get from it. But also, like, if you decide you want something different in your life, and you don't, like, it's nerve-wracking. You don't know if it's going to be possible or what to do, or I don't know how to do this, and I don't know how to do that. Well, that's not a reason to stop. Like, and that's why continual learning is so important, because when you have a goal or a problem that you don't know how to get to, you don't know how to solve, you got to learn your way there. You got to learn your way to the solution, or learn your way to it. And then it's possible. Like, learning opens up so many possibilities when you're willing to just keep learning. I think my last question is, so you obviously had many potential lives you could have been a dancer, and an entertainer, you could be an artist, and got all the other things you did, like there's a retreat planner, and like all the other stuff you did. Like, you had many potentials. You were a multi-potentialite, as some
Yes.
field say. And you stepped into a potential that felt like the best one for now, right? And so now you have created a life that it appears to me like you enjoy your life more now than you have in the past. Is that correct? Okay.
Very.
So I guess my final thought is like, what can you say, maybe to inspire other people who are have multiple potentials to just like go for the life of their dreams? Like, what would you say to inspire someone to make a similar choice to like bet on themselves?
Yeah.
Go get a life you can really enjoy.
Yeah. It's it's a blessing to be able to have so many avenues in which to decide to go down, I will say. Um, and then there's a challenge in really learning about yourself, because when you do have so many avenues that you are skilled in, and even with opportunities, maybe even still coming, I still have people contacting me about multiple avenues that I used to do. And I have to, and every time I sit with them for a little bit and I'm like, do I take this? Does that like worker bee in me come back and go, well, I can take that on too, because I can do that. Because there is part of me that like still has that trigger of like, well, take the opportunity. Yeah, you figure it out. You can add this to your plate. So it takes a certain amount of inner reflection and like really tuning in of, does this excite me though? Can I do it? Am I skilled at it? Would people like me to do that and be in that place or work for them in this capacity? Yes is the answer. Yes. Does it excite me? Does it make me go, hell yes? And at this point, I've got to be true that for me, I know I can feel a visceral hell no or hell yes.
Mm.
Even if it's like, oh, but that would be fun. But if it's this kind of energy for me, I know that it's not like, yes, oh my God, this is so exciting. And at this point, I gotta go with that. Because otherwise I could very easily have 5 jobs right now and work 16 hours a day. And I just don't want to do that.
Don't want.
So it's like hell no or hell yes. And for me, honestly, I had to have some time where I actually put my feet in those things, in each of those things, and gave it a go. I don't think there's anything wrong with that either, because sometimes you have a perception of what it will be. And then when you're in it, it does feel different. And you go, it's not quite what I thought. And just be okay. I had to be okay that I would try something for a year and go, it's just not it. And make peace with it. It's not that I'm flighty. It's not that I'm ungrounded. It's like I had to actually experience it to make that decision. So sometimes it's that too.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like being just okay to just try things.
Right.
Society makes us so scared to try things. Like everything has to be so definitive. We choose our career, you stay in it. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I think life is an experience and an evolution, and it is okay to change like where we put our energy. That's part of our growth, because each one of those things helped me grow in many aspects that now I have with me still.
Yeah. I love that idea and that concept of like tuning in and figuring out, does doing this feel good? Does it add to my cup? Does it fill me up? Does it make me feel vibrant? Does it make me come alive? Or is it going to drain me? And
Yeah.
that's a really good measure to finding your authentic self, I think, is just being aware of how things and people and experiences impact your energy.
Yeah.
Because if it fills you up, do it. If
Yep.
it drains you, try to avoid it.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe sometimes the activity excites you, but the people around it drain you. And that just means you like the activity, find another setting.
Yeah. Like troubleshoot your life. I
Totally.
mean, can I share a little bit too? And then we probably should wrap up. But in 2020, I was so stressed out. Like I had a 3-year-old child when the pandemic started, and I didn't leave my house basically almost at all for a year. And I was very afraid of us all dying. Um, and so it was just a difficult time for everybody, including me. And I did a lot of soul searching and reflecting on all the areas of my life. Like How's my career going? How's my love life going? How's my body? How's my friends? How's my money? How's my house? Like just all the areas that I could examine. And what I realized through that examination was there were only 3 things I wanted to work on. And I identified them and I made a vision board. And I really had crystallized in my mind, like, oh, I need to change 3 things in order to have a life I'll be really happy with. And then I went through my dark night of the soul where I had to change so damn much about my life. And it was really friggin' hard. It was a lot of work. It involved selling things. It involved leaving things. It involved unfriending people. It involved moving. It involved becoming a single mother. It involved like real big changes, one after another. I did it all at once, and it was a lot. It was really difficult. And now the dust has settled. I'm in my new life, and I friggin' love my life now. So I just really feel passionate about, and plus this relates to polymathy because, we're lots of things. We have lots of potential. Polymathy is really about owning your life and being a curator, like a museum curator, like where you're in, not just because we create our life no matter what we do.
Yeah.
But when you do it with intention, then you're a curator, not a creator. I mean, you're still a creator, but you know what I'm saying? Like there's something to be said for being a curator of your own life experiences. But first you got to be honest about like what's working and what's not. And will I be willing to make the changes necessary so I can wake up every day and feel happy with what my life looks like? Or will I languish in the old life just because I'm already there?
Yeah, totally. Totally.
I'm going to make another vision board now, by the way, because everything I put on it in 2020 or 2021, whenever I made it, like everything's coming true or already true. And I'm like, gosh darn it, it's time to get some bigger dreams on my vision board, I guess.
Right.
Got to reflect and have fun. Like literally, I feel like my life is like an artistic expression itself. Like a painting is your artistic expression. Another kind of artistic expression is literally just your life itself. Its expression.
Yeah.
You can be the artist of your own life.
Yeah. Something, I don't know if you do this or not. Tell me yes or no. Something from my achievement era too that I never did was really acknowledge when I did hit those accolades because I was just on to the next,
Yes.
onto the next, onto the next. So I'd take maybe like minutes and go, oh, good job, you did that thing. Okay, what's next? So what I like to do at the end of the year, New Year's resolutions, all that, I'll create goals of what I'd like to see for the next year. But what I also do is I like to reflect on the year that's just been and celebrate what's been, because
celebrate it.
even like we have such sometimes small incremental progressions that then compound into big things, but we have so many little things to celebrate that most of us just don't. And something I try to do now is to do that, is to go, okay, like, do you have other big goals? Yep, awesome. But like, look at what you've accomplished this year. Like, congratulations. Like, I sold more paintings this year than I have in like ever in my life. And I am so grateful, like, to look at like what this year has just brought. And it's important for me to look at those things and celebrate where I am to keep fueling me. And then to like, great, go make those goals. So anyway, that's what I like to do at the end of the year too, is to just have that like little reflection, and that little like, that to me is like self-care.
Yeah. One other thing, as long as we're talking like tips and tricks, practical strategies for like envisioning, but also reflecting. What's her name? Danielle Laporte. I really like her work. Danielle Laporte. She's in like the self-help world. She has this model that rather than like jumping right to what your goals are, start first with identifying what are the core, most desired feelings you want to experience, the emotions you want to experience. And that, like, I want to feel free. I want to feel empowered. I want to feel unstoppable. I want to feel connected. Like, start there. And then use your imagination and your intelligence and your professional skills to envision how you can create a life where you get to feel those feelings that you want to feel. That is how you get a happy life.
Yeah. And that's the feminine energy and more of the like being in flow that we were talking about. It's
Yeah.
like sitting in those energies. That's what makes the work, like we still do physical work, but that makes the work not feel so like trying and arduous, because if we are able to sit in those feelings, that's where like the fuel is behind that. So,
Yeah. There's so much, I mean, emotions have been sort of dismissed as like not useful, distracting, take you off course. And I really think that's not actually true. I think it's your thoughts which can actually lead you quite astray. And it's your feelings and your heart and your gut and your body that let you know what's right for you or not. And so we shouldn't dismiss them. And the inner world of feeling, being aware of your feeling and like creating opportunities to generate feelings you want is so smart to do.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this was such a fun discussion. I cannot wait to share it with people. Thank you, Christy.
Thank you.
It was so good.
Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you for watching. I hope this was insightful or inspiring. Christy's story is such a good story of like really leaning into difficulty so you can get to a life you want. And I have such tremendous respect that you did that for yourself.
Thanks.
All right, everybody. Bye.